In this video, we are going to talk about three variable systems. A single linear equation in three variables must have at least one of the coefficients, that is one of a, b or c, as a non-zero number. The row picture of the single equation is a plane in R3. Let me explain why with an example. X plus z equal to 1. One solution to the system is z equal to 1, x equal to 0, and y can be anything since it doesn't affect the equation. So y can be 0 or 1 or whatever when z is 1 and x is 0. Now if I plot these points where x and z are 0 and 1 but y is free, I will get a line parallel to the y-axis passing through 0, 0, 1. Another solution to the system could be z equal to 0.5 and x equal to 0.5, and y can again be anything. And you will get points like 0.50, 0.5 and 0.51, 0.5 and so on. So I move to 0.50, 0.5 and draw another line parallel to the y-axis. So I don't really have to worry about y. I just need to choose some x and z such that they add to 1, and for each of those infinite combinations, I can have infinite values of y. All of these lines together would constitute infinite points that make this plane. An important thing to note here is that x plus z is equal to 1 represents a plane when in R3, but the same equation represents a line in R2. Moral of the story, you must always know the space in which you exist. Let me show you what this plane exactly looks like using a 3D software. The red one is the x-axis, green is the y-axis, and the blue one is the z-axis. Now if I were to look head on into the y-axis and project everything on the xz plane, I would see a line. As soon as we jump back to 3D, it's like we pulled this line apart in the y direction to get this plane. Things start to get complicated when you add another equation in your system, like x plus 2y plus z is equal to 2. As usual, we should assume that a, b, c satisfy both the equations, but from now on, I will start abusing. That is, I will start assuming that x, y, z satisfy both the equations. From the first equation, I can write x in terms of z and substitute it in the second equation to get y equal to 0.5. So we solved for one variable, but what about the other two? Now because we have two equations only, at max they can constrain two variables. So we let z be a free variable, that is z is equal to k, where k takes all real values. Now we can write the complete solution in the following way. Some of these points in the solution can be found by taking a few values for k like 1, 2, 3. The corresponding coordinates can be calculated using the general solution we have already found. These infinite solutions constitute a line in R3 this time. So note that m linear equations in n variables can at max have an n minus m dimensional space as the solution. That is, if n is greater than or equal to m. For example, the above system with three variables and two equations has a one-dimensional solution space. To fix a plane in 3D, you need 3 points. These 3 points could be a, b and c on the x, y and z axis respectively that I found from the equation. So we get this red plane from the equation x plus 2y plus z is equal to 2. Another thing that you learn from 3D geometry is that the vector 1, 2, 1 is perpendicular to this plane. The vector is given by the coefficients of x, y and z. Now if I add the previous plane x plus z is equal to 1 into the picture, we can see that these two planes intersect in a line. It is the same line that we just derived algebraically. Let's get back to our blackboard. Now we look at an inconsistent system, 3 variables with these two equations. Obviously, x cannot be equal to 1 and 2 at the same time, so no solution exists to this system. The equation x equal to 1 represents a plane passing through the point 1, 0, 0 and perpendicular to the x-axis. And x equal to 2 represents a plane passing through 2, 0, 0 and perpendicular to the x-axis again. Since these are parallel planes, they won't have any point in common. Now what does the column picture look like? That is something I would like you to think about. Here's the general result. Given two equations in n variables, if all the ai's are equal to the bi's and we have d1 equal to d2, then they represent the same equation, so they will have infinite common points. But if d1 is not equal to d2, no solution exists, as they would represent parallel offset spaces. Now we add a third equation to the system. The solution to the problem is obtained by eliminating variables one by one. Step 1 is to get rid of one variable using one equation. So let us get rid of x from equations 2 and 3 using equation 1. We take equation 2 and subtract equation 1 from it, giving us 2y equal to 1. And then we take equation 3 and subtract 2 times equation 1 to obtain 3y minus 3z is equal to minus 2. Let me name these equations 4 and 5. We have eliminated x from these. Next, we try to get rid of another variable using one equation. Equation 5 minus 3 by 2 times equation 4 gives me minus 3z is equal to minus 7 by 2, which means z is equal to 7 by 6. The final step is to start back substituting the results in previous equations. We obtain y is equal to half, and from the first equation we get x is equal to minus 1 by 6. This completes the solution. Now let's look at the same set of operations in matrix form. Row 2 minus row 1 is the same as saying take equation 2 and subtract equation 1 from it. Same goes for R3 minus 2R1. This system of equations in matrix form is the same system as you get after step 1 on the left side. The row operations have been defined in a way that they mean the exact same thing as subtracting equations. Notice how the first column has now all zeros below the first element. This means that the variable x has been eliminated from all the equations except equation 1. The next row operation, R3 minus 3 by 2R2, eliminates y from the third equation. The last row now has a 0 for both x and y. And now we revert back to the linear equation form to obtain these three equations. And we start solving from the bottom one and back substituting the results to the above equation one by one to obtain the final solution. What we just studied is called Gaussian elimination, which according to me is the single most important topic of linear algebra. Now let me take this matrix notation that represents the original system and copy it down here. The matrix on the left is called coefficient matrix. The entire system can be written as AV is equal to B, where B is this output vector, V is the vector containing the variables, and A is of course the coefficient matrix. A simpler way to write this is to write the elements of the coefficient matrix and the output vector together as one augmented matrix. We can carry out the same row operations to reach the same end result. This 1, this 2, and this minus 3 are called pivots, and the columns that contain pivots are called pivot columns. We use the pivots to eliminate variables from the remaining subsequent equations below them. By definition, a pivot cannot be 0, or else you cannot eliminate the variable from the remaining equations. While carrying out the Gaussian elimination, if you get stuck with a 0 in the pivot position, you should switch rows from below. If no row exchange is possible, then we say that no pivot exists in that column. The corresponding variable to that column is free. Our next topic is the rank of the matrix. But before that, let me clarify as to why we want to make zeros below the pivot positions. Of course, it helps us solve the system, but another important reason is that it helps us to check for linearly independent columns. Remember that if I want to check if V1 and V2 are linearly independent, I want to know the values of A and B that make this equation true. Assuming A is equal to 0 implies B is 0, and assuming B is 0 implies A is 0. This always happens if both the vectors have at least one non-zero element. Since A equal to 0 or B equal to 0 is not a valid candidate for linear dependency, I can rewrite the equation in the following way. Now I'm looking for a C that makes this equation true. The second element is 0 on the left, but a non-zero on the right because it is a pivot. No C can take a 0 to a finite value. For C equal to 0, elements below the first pivot are the same, but the first elements won't be the same in that case. Since pivot columns have pivots in different rows, they are always linearly independent. The number of pivots is given a special name, the rank of the matrix. For our example, rank is 3. This process is a standard method to check the linear independence of vectors. You should pause the video now and try to solve the system first yourself. We write it using an augmented matrix. Using the first pivot 1, we perform row operations to make the numbers below it 0. Now we look for the next pivot in the second column. We again obtain a 1, and using this we make the number below it 0. So we have reached the echelon form, the staircase pattern. And now we are ready for back substitution. Using z equal to 1, y plus 3z is equal to 2, and x minus 2y minus z is equal to 4. Solving this, we obtain z equal to 1, y equal to minus 1, and x equal to 3 as the solution. Another popular method is to continue with the echelon form to obtain zeros above the pivots. We first divide a row with the value of the pivot in it so that the pivot becomes 1, and then use it to make zeros above it. Fortunately, we have all the pivots as 1 already, so we don't have to worry about that in this problem. We start by making zeros above the second pivot. Then we make zeros above the third pivot. This is called the row reduced echelon form. This form helps read the solution directly. Notice that the coefficient matrix has turned to a matrix with only ones and zeros, and in this case a 3x3 identity matrix. Now let's look at the column picture. Using the original augmented matrix, we'll get 3 vectors in R3 that need to be combined to obtain the blue output vector. Using the echelon form of the matrix, we get some other 3 vectors that need to be combined to give some other output vector. And finally, using the row reduced echelon form, we get another set of 3 vectors which need to be combined to obtain another output vector. The 3 pictures do not have the same vectors, but they all have the same solutions. This is just the way that the corresponding row pictures all have the same solution. In each column picture, if I take 3 times the first vector, minus 1 times the second vector, and 1 times the third vector, I would reach the corresponding output vector. The row reduced echelon form has a standard bases as the columns, so they span R3, and I know I can reach any output in R3 in a unique way. Since the steps for the Gaussian elimination are a bit confusing, I'm going to provide a solved example with the problem set in the description link below. In the next video, I'll try to cover up this entire topic of system of equations, so make sure you stay tuned.